Hello, everyone. Benjamin Lindsay here, managing editor at Backstage. I will let our audience grow over the next few seconds. Just quick intro to our Backstage Live series, which is our on-camera interview series, as programming part of the Slate. As you all know by now, the Slate is our ongoing video series you can watch from anywhere to learn all you need to know about the craft and business of acting, from casting directors, industry insiders, and of course, actors, which is the treat that you're in for today. This is done through Instagram takeovers, Q&As, live stream seminars, and interactive group classes. So for more on the Slate, visit backstage.com/magazine, where we update every week what the next week's calendar looks like. Today, we're very lucky to be joined by Elisa Braga. She is the actor and executive producer behind Queen of the South. She stars as Teresa Mendoza, which is currently airing its 5th and final season on the USA Network. That's in addition to recent projects like the new Mutants, Disney Pixar's Soul, and HBO's We Are Who We Are, so I'm super excited to speak with her about it all. I will pull her up in the live right now. Elisa, 1 second. We'll get started here. Hi there.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you today?
I am good, thank you. So wonderful to hear you announcing like everything that you guys do. It's so I lived the magazine for so many years, and it's really wonderful. Now we can see all this stuff also on Instagram.
Yeah, exactly. That's great to hear that you're a fan and a reader of ours. I know that you were on our cover just a few years ago for Queen of the South.
Exactly.
So it's great to reconnect. I'm glad we can make this happen.
I am really excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Now, are you in the middle of production right now, or is season 5 wrapped for good?
No, we wrapped, I think like 4 weeks ago, maybe 5 weeks ago. And yeah, it's been interesting after 5 years, that feeling of, okay, it's like you put it away. It's different when you do a TV show, right? Because as an actor, when you work on a film, you do the work, you work with that crew, then you stop and then release. You only revisit that character if it's something that has a sweet sequel or a prequel, and then you revisit. But it was my first experience on a TV show. So we finished a month ago, and it's kind of like that feeling of, oh my God, I'm never going to revisit her. I mean, you never know, but I mean, like there's that feeling of, okay, there's no next year for it. And
yeah, exactly. It feels like something's missing, at least in the immediate.
Yeah.
It's been so great to see you bring this character to life over the last few years. And obviously we're in the middle of airing season 5 right now. What's been the most gratifying part of the experience for you in terms of playing Teresa and bringing her to audiences?
It's so interesting because, like I was saying, I've never done TV before this experience. And it's very powerful, I think, for an actor, that thing of revisiting a character every year, because all of us, I think, we grow as human beings, as people, like just by on a daily basis of who we are. From one year to another year, we meet people, we challenge ourselves, we grow up. And it feels to me that you do that with the character, because the character journey is changing. So you're changing with the character and you're really connecting with the audience. So how we started the show, we shot the pilot in 2015.
Wow.
And because of the pandemic, of course, we took an extra year filming. But just that feeling of, this character has been with me for 5 years. I've never had that experience. And I've always seen other people's, other works of other actors doing that. But to be able to live through it, it was very, very challenging and very powerful, that with that idea of how much you grow as a person, as an actress, but also you grow as the character in the story. Like the way that we finished the show, it's completely different character than when she started. It's the same spine, it's the same soul, it's the same human being, but how much she grew, how much she challenged herself, how much she changed as a character. It was a wonderful experience. It was my first TV experience. I've never done even in Brazil, which is where I'm from. So it was interesting to challenge myself in that direction.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel like that's the appeal of a long-running TV series for any actor, just the opportunity to have that character development over the years. What was the biggest challenge for you, though, in terms of keeping with the character over the last 5 years?
Since I read the book before I jumped on the show many years before, so I was very passionate about it. And I always thought that it was interesting that she goes from being this naive girlfriend of this drug dealer guy that is not aware of the business, to suddenly become not only the leader of this business, but like a very powerful and successful woman. So to create that arc throughout the show was really challenging and really interesting, because you really, to be believable, I wanted to create like some ground for her, so the audience could connect and could kind of remember who she was and what changes in her life led her through. So I always try to at least keep a few different personalities in her soul and the way that she was, so people won't think that she suddenly changed from one thing to the other, and without judging, I think, the character, but just more to be connected with the audience in that sense. To not, I think I tried a lot to humanize her, not to be likable, because I think we're entitled to have flaws as human beings and characters as well, but mainly so people could understand where she came from, and always remember her arc in that sense of, she's from Mexico, she was from that reality, she had this type of childhood, and that's why everything that happened in her life, she grows, in a different direction.
Yeah, yeah. And I feel like we see there's several comparisons that you could draw this character to kind of the traditional male anti-hero. Was it especially appealing for you to be able to kind of flip the script in that way and give that kind of power and that anti-heroine badassery to
it was really challenging, because normally we see, like I said, like men playing this type of character. So just by being able to be a woman, a Latina, doing it was a wonderful challenge. But that idea of being the anti-hero, but also a survivor, because she comes from that reality, because she comes from a childhood that is very harsh, and how she overcomes so many challenges in her own life, she ends up being the heroine of her own journey. And I always thought that was interesting, to be, of course, she's a drug dealer, of course there is this whole villain thing in her life, the anti-hero, but at the same time, how much she's a survivor, how much she was able to survive so many harsh things that happened in her journey. I always thought that was interesting, because like you said, like, it's always played by men, and it's always played onto this stereotype that the drug dealer is, because it is the kind of thing that we've seen so many times in movies and in TV shows. So it was nice to kind of have the challenge of switching a little bit, or at least I tried a lot to switch in that sense. That's why I kept trying to make her a survivor, so we could ground her in something that it was not just about the business, or about being mean, or about being a villain, or about being just, the powerful, insane drug dealer.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, she's still a very human character, and flawed like any of the rest of us, for sure.
Exactly.
And I know that you were also attached, about midway through the run, you attached as executive producer on the series. Could you illuminate what that role actually entails for an actor who also is executive producer? Was that added responsibilities on your plate?
It was so wonderful. I felt so happy that they invited me, they included me, because like for a show like this, and especially for a character like this, that is the story is her journey to become this powerful woman, an actor gets really involved in the scripts. So having the chance to participate in the conversation and read scripts and give notes and receive notes, and participate early on the process of the discussion of how we're going with the character and with the arc of the show, it was, for me, it was amazing. I've learned so much from all the writers and everyone that I worked with the past couple of years because of that, because we are the advocate for the character. I always tend to see acting like that, like as soon as you get a role, we become advocate of the character, and we need to breathe and live through them, with them, without judging it. And I tried a lot to bring that to the writers, so we could have that dance on how to create that arc. So being able to participate, it really helped me, I think, as an actress in the work on set, because I knew beforehand what directions we were going. And that was, I think it's really wonderful. I think like actors can be multiple. That's why I'm so happy to see so many actresses that I know of directing or being executive producers or writers, because we can amplify and help so much the arc of the characters. And I thought it was really powerful.
To be their advocate, as you say, that's such an important role for an actor. And to have the privilege of the behind the scenes look at how it's made and to have a say in that. I imagine that it was a welcome opportunity for sure.
It was, I grew up, I think I grew a lot with it, and I learned a lot from it as well, which is really exciting to be able to create together. And I've been very passionate about this character since I read the book. When they decided to change a little bit the book, to change the story from what the book was and kind of redirect to a different journey, I always focus myself and the core of the character from the book, and as if what journeys she would have been put on, like how would she respond to these situations. Yeah. And I think that was the exchange that I always did with the writers, which was really, really wonderful. I'm very thankful to all of them.
That's great. That's great. Now, whether it be Teresa or looking to We Are Who We Are or the New Mutants, I know that you were a voice in Soul as well.
Yes.
Which just last night. That's great. Backstage, our audience today is kind of the working actors of the world. How would you describe like what your process looks like when you're faced with a new character? Do you have kind of a general practice when it comes to building what the performance is going to look like?
I think each project depends, because I always love a lot to hear the director of what they're, even if they're not saying much, but what direction they're kind of going, just so I can have a sense. But even before meeting the director, I love to read the script a couple of times, because every time you read, you find more details, you find little things in between lines or about other characters talking about your character. So I always love to read a few times before I start prepping. But I really love discussing with the director. I love the word direction. I love directors because of that. I think it's a good partnership, because it gives you kind of like a north of where you're going. And then getting the details and really creating the journey of the arc to then just forget and just live and just be. So I think the main process, like for example, the process for Queen of the South was completely different than the process for We Are Who We Are, because Luca is such a specific director, and he loves to take you out of your comfort zone. He's really curious about the subjectiveness. Is that correct saying in English?
Yes.
Of human beings. So it was a wonderful challenge, because even though I prepared myself, I learned a lot about the structure on the military. My character was a nurse in the military. I really prepped myself into that sense of understanding that world, because someone who joins the army, it says a lot about what they want and how they see and what they're thinking. So I was kind of like reading a lot about these women that join the forces. But once you go on set, Luca is the type of director that he flips it and takes you out of your comfort zone. And I think that's the best thing for an actor, because you are in the moment. It's very exciting. But at the same time, if you're too attached to a specific point of view, it's really hard for you to play around. So I always try to get the sense of the director, but at the same time, prep of what is the spine of that human being, so we can kind of like have it set, but be, mobile in that sense. And I have an acting coach that I work with that really helps me playing around, because I think also it can be sometimes on our work be a lonely work. I don't know how many actors are here listening to us. I think a lot of people connect with it, that it can be very lonely. So I think sometimes when we get out of our heads, which is where a bunch of us sometimes live through, unfortunately, because that's part of who we are. Right. We always think a lot. I think at least all my actors friends, they say we go through the same.
Absolutely.
Right. and I think it's good for us to step away a little bit and shake. I think when you work with someone, that's why doing theater is so nice, because you end up being surrounded and talking, and instead of just prepping by yourself. So I don't know if it was very clear, my process, but I think it really changes time to time.
Well, it makes sense to do the prep work to find that spine, but then once that's in place, you want to be able to be fluid and play a little bit.
Exactly, to be mobile on it. Like I really think it's important to prep like how the characters speak, everything. I think study deep, but then let it go a little bit so you can live. That's at least how I try to.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, looking back to your early days, I know that your mother was also an actress. Is that kind of what planted the seed for you to want to become involved in the performing arts in the first place?
It's interesting because my mom was a theater actress and then she did a lot of musicals. And then when I was born, I think only 2 or 3 years after I was born, she decided to become an AD, an assistant director
Mm-hmm.
for commercials in Brazil. So I never saw her acting, but I
Okay.
grew up on a movie set because of her, because I was always with her on set. And all her friends, actors' friends, I started doing theater in school. But my mom was a really, really big influence because of that, because it was through her that my passion for acting and theater and movies started. And just by doing theater and being on set with her, it was something that kind of like walked together. And she always talked about acting in a beautiful way. It became kind of my mantra every time I would, especially in the early process of doing City of God and then
Mm-hmm.
Lower City, when I was just starting to act really like professionally and really like, okay, this is what I love, this is what I want to do for my
Mm-hmm.
life. She would always say, like, do it with your soul and believe in it, because if
Yeah.
you believe in it, everybody's going to believe it. So work around it, but believe it. And that's, I think, it was always an inspiration, because she was an actress that everybody that saw her acting said she was brilliant.
Mm-hmm.
So it was always a very strong connection. And I think it was because of her support and my admiration for everything that she taught me by watching films and by doing theater. It was very on that direction. So even though if I never saw her acting, it
Yeah.
definitely, I think it was that passion for the art of it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely a guidance through your early days, to say the least.
Yeah,
And
totally.
what doing two questions for you then. Was doing English language projects always kind of the end goal, or a goal on your radar when you first started out? And then do you have any advice that you would offer international performers who want to start working in the US and other markets like that?
It was mainly because of City of God, which was
Hmm.
this movie that made history in that sense of like, it was a film that was done in Brazil, an independent film that broke through all over the world, that I got the chance to meet my agent,
Hmm.
to have chances to start doing auditions here in the US. Definitely, it was. I'm very thankful actually to my dad that put me to study English in an early age. That was very good. That I need to give it to him, even though I didn't want to wake up to go to the classes
Yeah.
when I was a kid. I'm very thankful. But it was because of City of God that I started. So of course, I think when we grow up, we watch a lot of movies, and especially American movies, and that's something that I always loved, but I never thought like that's my goal. Not just because it wasn't a dream, it's just because I never kind of aimed. But what happened, it was through City of God, coming to film festivals, getting to know directors, and really falling in love with acting and acting in film.
Hmm.
Uh, that when the door opened, I just wanted to throw myself into it, and that's kind of like how it happened. I think it was inevitable, just because the door was open. I wanted, so it wasn't like a main goal when I first started, but because City of God happened when I was just starting, it kind of like went through
Yeah.
together. And I do think everybody is possible. Everybody has a chance. Everybody there is there's so many opportunities, I think, here, and not only just for Latinos, but for all over. I think like
Hmm.
we're now in a moment that we're, maybe because of Netflix, all the streamers, you
Hmm.
see a connection much more. Like one day you're watching Dark from Netflix that was made in Germany, or
Hmm.
you're watching 3% that was made in Brazil, or you're watching something that was made in Mexico, Casa de las Flores. Like
Hmm.
you can really connect with different type of performances and actors. And so I do believe, like, if it's a goal for whoever is watching us, if there is a goal for actors who want to work here, I think it's work on your craft, and of course work on the language, because it is a challenge for me. I work with my dialect coach as much as I work out every single day, because the tongue
Hmm.
movement is a completely different one. The
Yeah.
emphasis is a completely different one. So you need that. I think that type of work is very necessary. But apart from that, I think there is a possibility into bringing our own culture in it,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
beautiful, because we're different. Like the way that we prep an actor in Brazil is completely different that British actors work or
Hmm.
American actors work. So I always think that's powerful, the connection of different cultures.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Well, as a final question for you then, again, backstage, look into your early days in this industry. Is there any piece of advice that you would give your younger self when you were first getting your start? What's one thing that you've learned that you wish you knew back then?
That's a great question. I think don't be too hard on yourself.
Mm,
I think when I think actors, at least I am very like very hard on myself, but because I love so much that I give it all, I give it all, I give it all, and I
hmm.
want more and I want more. I love working. I mean, being on a set is my favorite place in the world. Like by far, I love that energy. I love that you do this with the other actors, you do with the crew, you do the craft as much as you do on a play.
Hmm.
And I think sometimes we're too hard on ourselves. And I think nowadays that I'm older, I feel that I don't need to be so hard on myself. And I think
Yeah.
we need to heal the actors in that sense, to be respectful to ourselves, our process. And it's hard. It's hard because we're exposing ourselves for auditions, for
Hmm.
stuff, and it's never easy. And I feel that to be easy on yourselves, I think it's a good thing more than
Yeah.
anything.
Fair enough. I love that. Well, it's been great to get to know you a little bit. Thanks for
Thank you
spending
so
time with us today.
much.
Yeah. And congratulations on this final season. I always love seeing you on screen, so I'm excited to see what you do next.
Thank
And
you so much.
yeah, stay well, and we'll be in touch.
You too. Take
All right.
care.
Bye bye.
Bye.